and we're going to start our drive. So I've been spending more time with FSD, obviously, since I pay for it, but I haven't recorded a lot of drives, number one, because I don't want to put too much content out there in the same version. Um, People might lose interest in the channel. But I've been making notes, and I have noticed on the way back from where I'm going now, it's handling things a little differently, which is great. So while this video is going to go to the destination, I might include a small part after at the end of this video to see if I can capture the same behaviors. But I stand by my initial opinion that 12.5.4.1 is a very polarizing release. Some things it's doing much better. Some things I just hate, and I don't know if it's this version or FSD in general, because I find that when I'm in a rush or there's heavy traffic and I feel stressed, I'm a lot less likely to let FSD drive on its own, because I get much more critical about the decisions it makes and thinking I would rather do something different. Like just today I realized I've gone from average dynamics to chill dynamics, and that's because it kept getting into the passing lane too much. Like if I'm a mile from an exit, it may want to jump in the far left lane on a 3-lane highway to go around 1 or 2 cars, and then I'm going to have to get over to the right 3 lanes, and that kind of annoys me. I don't like that, so I've backed it down to chill, and I think that's good enough. I do change this periodically, even during a drive. If I'm feeling a certain kind of way, I have to kind of change it to match my mood at the time, and sometimes not always right. And you can do minimal lane changes, but that's always going to prioritize just staying in one lane, like never moving, and so that kind of throws the needle completely opposite, where you're definitely going to be stuck behind slow-moving cars because you've told it not to change lanes. And here's an interesting point for any of you out there that are using ChatGPT, and if you've used the newer versions of it where they've introduced memory, when you're talking to ChatGPT, it remembers things that you say about your identity. So if I told it that I have a Mac, and so it remembers that I have a Mac. I told it I have a YouTube channel. It remembers that I have a YouTube channel. And so it will kind of craft those. I believe it kind of puts those into a system prompt when you ask, and all that means is it kind of feeds the AI some information about you and how it should respond to you before it responds to your question. And I really feel like that's what FSD needs. I need some kind of memory about me as a driver that says, hey, I prefer not to change lanes, if I'm a quarter mile from the exit, or I would prefer to be in the right-hand lane before I get within a quarter mile of my exit, or please don't go into the passing lane if we're less than a mile out from the exit. I wish it would remember those nuances of my personal driving preference and then account for that as it's driving. I think that's a golden opportunity. I think that would really help. Look at this, it's a Model X in front of us. I think that would really help adoption, because I pay for FSD. I love FSD. I run this channel mainly for FSD, even though I like to cover some other topics. But man, it can drive me crazy sometimes because it's still supervised. So I still have to be paying attention. And so naturally, I want it to drive like me, since I'm the driver behind the wheel critiquing it in a sense. So some kind of driver profile, kind of memory setting where it remembers, even like what lanes you prefer on what stretches of highway, or maybe your preferences for speed limit. Because while I have the manual speed offset set, there's on occasion where I really want to go faster. It's rare. It's on only certain stretches of highway that I know about, that I know that there's not a lot of traffic, not a lot of cops, and it would be easy to maintain a higher speed. I'd like it to remember that. So, that's some of my newer feelings on the matter. And I think one of the biggest issues is probably not even FSD. This goes to another uh, channel that I follow just because I like to support small creators like myself, especially doing the same thing. But it's a senior Canadian FSD tester. I'll put a link to his channel somewhere, but I think he mentioned that he still feels like there are frequent changes that even happen overnight. And one of the things I heard was that at the 1010 event, that some folks were talking to Tesla engineers and FSD engineers. Okay, I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know if I'll submit feedback. Let me finish my thought and I'll talk about what happened there. Still can't get it right. At the 1010 event, someone was talking to some of these engineers, and there are no changes to the AI system, the neural net that drives FSD between releases. It says one or more side cameras included. Maybe that was the issue. And so what that means is they're not doing incremental FSD improvements. The behavior of FSD, the training of it is not changing between releases. But one thing I have heard is that mapping data can change overnight through more frequent updates. And I don't even think these updates are even like you see them with release notes. So the mapping data can get updated. And I wonder sometimes if that changes things. Maybe it's more aware of lane markings or signage or something like that maybe changes how it interacts a little bit. I'm not sure, but I do believe that happens based on what I've heard. And I think that could explain some like nuanced changes in behavior that occur between bigger releases. But I really feel like that's where a lot of the changes need to continue. Like I think they really need to improve their mapping data. It just sometimes the lanes it picks or how it rides out an ending merge lane. Look, it's not even getting over into this lane. It's like it doesn't even see it. Okay, I got to take over. It looks like my FSD is actually broken right now. I don't know why. I cleaned the cameras. What is complaining about? I cleaned the cameras on my trip earlier, but that doesn't mean maybe a bird pooped on my camera or something. I'll have to check it. So this actually is not the best FSD video, but it's what happens. So I don't know, they definitely need to improve the mapping data. Sometimes a lot of my disengagements lately are because it's just in the wrong lane, or based on like the pattern coming up, or even the school I'm going to. It knows to cut through the school to get back to the front entrance. Well, what it doesn't see is about 60 feet away are a bunch of parking cones, because I'm picking my son up from driver's ed. So I've got these parking cones that are blocking the path. Now I, as a human, can see that it's 60 feet away, but I glance over, boom, I see it. I know I can't go that way. FSD doesn't see that. It would want to turn and go, and maybe as it approaches the cones, it will make a decision, it'll reroute, but that's a big difference I've only realized today between FSD and humans. I believe FSD is operating and driving based on very close inputs. There's a curb here, there's a light here, but how far ahead is it looking for detours and markings and signage? I mean, my test today would suggest that it's not looking across the parking lot for cones. Not that it should, but like you know, I would imagine that every frame it's rendering, it's putting through the neural net and trying to identify what's there. It should know that there's cones there and maybe try a different route. So that's the end of my soapbox, and now I can't even use FSD because apparently something wrong with my camera. But I said a lot. I will add one more little clip when I have my son and we're coming back out this turn here. We'll see if it behaves better. Quiet button just for a minute. Alright, so I turn on the FSD a little bit late in the game, but here it actually has been continuing to move, which it should. It should never stop here, and it used to stop. So we'll give it a good check for that. It's kept going, and it's actually, it's going to make a liar out of me. It was staying in the right lane as it should, because there's no need to get over. Matter of fact, I just tell it to get back. But earlier today when I made this drive, it just stayed in this lane, which would have been my preference. And then lastly, I did find out, I think I've got some smudges underneath the glass in front of my right side pillar camera. I'll put a picture up on the screen, but I think I might have to take the Tesla in to get serviced because I don't think I can clean it. I believe the smudges are on the underside of the glass.